Welcome everyone to Automating Success Show. I'm your host, Joe Langton. I'm super excited today. We're interviewing Tom Yeshurun, and hopefully I said that right, but I'm going to let Tom introduce himself completely. I think Tom's got so much going on. It's actually best for me to just let Tom explain who he is, who's Civ Robotics, who they are, and just introduce yourself like we just first met today for the audience, Tom.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe, for having me here. Pleasure being here. My name is Tom Yeshurun. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Civ Robotics. We started this venture about 3 years ago back in Israel, and I'm very excited to be here today and share with you our venture. Originally from Israel, born and raised, moved out here after serving in the army, went back to Israel for my engineering degree, worked in construction field, had a crazy idea of having marking robots, built the company, and are now over a year in the field with the US customers deploying our technology. If some of you are watching us in the video, you can see one of our robots behind me in the field in the solar farm. And in a nutshell, at Civ Robotics, we take ground robots and aerial vehicles and we automate them to do autonomous tasks. The first task that we're doing is marking coordinates on job sites really fast, really precise, while keeping boots off the ground, away from harm's way. That's in a nutshell.
So Tom, for people that are wondering, so you're doing location. How do you guys overlay that? I mean, is it a PDF, data point, GPS points? How do you guys put that in, overlay that into your bot?
That's a great question. So we're not trying to educate the market to change their workflow. Today, they upload a list of coordinates, called a CSV file, or a drawing, mostly called DXF or DWG AutoCAD files. And you just upload that to our platform, choose an area you want to lay out, or just do the whole thing and just press start. That's pretty much it. The software calculates the best route, optimizes it, and guides the operator, who just has to follow it and oversee the operation is performed safely, and there's no major obstacles in the way. And if there are, the robot will stop and the operator will drive manually around it, and it can pause the mission at any time. We're basically trying to take the data that they use today and help our customers just to perform it safer and faster, while keeping the quality as high as possible, because the robot will do exactly what you tell them. It will not make a mistake.
So what industries are currently gobbling this up right now? I mean, I own a landscape company, and I could literally see your bot laying out every place to plant a tree in a bush. But I'm sure that's probably small scale for you guys compared to what you're actually doing. So explain the big things you guys are doing right now.
Yeah. Look, we've been poked about our technology by different industries. And we started construction because that's where we come from. I was a road construction engineer beforehand, worked for a large GC back in Israel. And I know the value of marking on roads. The value, we're talking in inches at first. Now we're sub-inches. So the fact that we're in sub-inch and we're talking, now we're talking to some customers about millimeter level, like 1/100th of a foot. You don't need that level of accuracy in landscape. Correct me if I'm wrong. You don't care if the tree's off by 1 inch or 2 inches or 3 inches or maybe even a foot. I don't know. But in construction, if you put a rail of a road a foot in, that's gonna hit your truck. You don't want that. So the value of accuracy is way higher in construction, and that's why we're there. And last customer we're able to show them that in less than 15 minutes, they were able to do a road closure that will take them more than an hour. So the fact that we can perform that task faster for them is huge benefit, that they can start the road closure sooner and hopefully close it earlier and de-risk project delays. And having those traffic jams because of road closures, it's a pain in the butt. Just yesterday in California, I was waiting for 20 minutes because they had a road closure, and our robot could have probably shortened that time as well.
Yeah, for sure. First, I want to kind of elaborate. Yeah, I mean, of course, we don't need to be as accurate on the landscaping side, but on the flip side, there's a lot of landscapers that listen to my podcast, and I will say every one of them would agree that, it's a lot of times for us, we're showing up. I mean, if we're doing a culvers or a bank or something, landscaping that is pretty easy because you've got an island and a bed and you put plants in, it's easy to lay out. But sometimes as landscapers, we'll do big parks that it's just a wide open field. You're there after they did all the grading and dirt work, so you don't have any more reference points. So now you're sitting out there, you're trying to lay out a row of trees. You have nothing to keep it straight. I mean, even when we plant trees at our nursery, Tom, of course, we want them to be straight and clean and neat and look like nice, perfect rows. And it takes time to do that. So I actually wouldn't sell it short. I would think that I'm just telling you, professional to professional, I think there's definitely a market for you in the landscaping industry. And hopefully this conversation actually helps you with it, because I'm pretty excited. I think it's pretty awesome. So how do you guys do it? I mean, are you selling the bots, or are you doing some sort of a subscription or pay for the service based on pinpoints or locations?
So we offer both options right now. We're basically offering, a rental / lease option, and buy it out if you want, like try it out before you buy it kind of attitude.
Uh-huh.
Or you can just buy it out straight. If you do the, lease option and buy it out afterwards, we do take, some of that risk, and buyout is, plus the rental itself is a bit more than buying it out straight for day one. But it really depends on the customer needs. If you're looking at sub-inch, the mechanism is a bit more precise and more expensive. If you're looking at a couple of inches, 3-4 inches, it's fine. Then we have a lower, cheaper system we can offer. And we also have different platform. Like our core technology is a navigation stack, and we can put that basically on anything. So we can put that on a 4-wheel drive that can carry 70-pound big spray can and 6-inch ground clearance, or we can put it on a smaller robot with 2-inch ground clearance and way cheaper. So we are open-minded about building more products for more customers and making it more affordable to other customers. But and we're looking at right now, our products are ranging between 40 to 70 grand. And it also depends on the GPS that you want. Trimble is a great product, but it is pricier versus other brands like U-Blocks that are a third of that cost.
Mm-hmm. So then with your guys's, so let's say somebody was getting your robot or leasing it or bought one, are you tied to the GPS network that's a free network, or is it a subscription-based network?
Any network that you want, you're good to go. If you want to connect to your local, I presume you're in Illinois these days. So if there's a local DOT of Illinois you want to connect to, put your IP address, username, password, you're logged in. I do that in California, but I also connect to the Trimble network. I also connect to the Leica one, the SmartNet. You choose your network. I'm not going to tell you which network you use. You can use any one.
Well, that's good to know, because there's a lot of companies like yours that they have this amazing machine, and then you also have to get involved in the subscription for the GPS system, and then you start looking at it, and so that's awesome. You guys have that. So tell us about, I mean, obviously the audience doesn't know this, but I what was it, about a year ago I met you
right before COVID.
Yep, just for COVID, out by the Rabines. And when we were out there then, I feel like we were talking about the drone. So tell us about the Civ drone. Obviously, you've got the Civ drone. the Civ dot 4-wheel drive, the Civ dot 2-wheel. So kind of just go, maybe tell us about the different products and what makes one kind of better for you than the other right now, and simplicity, or, you know.
Yeah. Actually, if you recall, when you saw me back in Chicago, you saw the Civ dot 6-wheel drive. That was like our first prototype
I did.
of Civ dot. And actually, that will probably be pretty good for landscaping, because it's, nice, small, and jumps around. But I'll tell you a bit about the background of the products and how we came up with the Civ dot. And we'll start with Civ drone. So Civ drone was the first product. It's a heavy lifter drone that literally carries stakes and drills it in the ground. So you upload the same file that we spoke about, that CSV list of coordinates. Drone takes off, flies at about 12 feet, lands above the coordinates, gets from the GPS correction data where he's at. He has a compass. He knows where the north is. And imagine like a 3-axis machine, like a 3D printer with a drill on it. And it literally drills a stake into the ground. We actually load a stake from our magazine and drill it into the ground. So we started doing that on softer soils, but then customers said, we also have hard soils. How can you ensure that your plastic stake is going to drill through hard soils? So we developed an even more robust mechanism that has a pre-drill system with metal drill. And only then we take the plastic stake and drill it into the ground. We even penetrated asphalt, like serious rocks as well.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. But I'll tell you this: we've developed this great technology. We got to really, really high precision. We're talking about 1/2 inch accuracy. Sounds amazing, right, Joe?
Yeah, it does.
But then we started deploying this with customers in Japan, Israel, US. And we noticed something. All of our customers were afraid of this beast. They took a few steps back, and they were very concerned about safety issues. Even though we haven't had any safety issue over 100 flights, that risk is really high, and they don't want to take that risk. So
if you don't mind me asking, what are they worried about? Are they just worried about the propellers, or just like that being open? Like what was the safety concern that they were worried? I'm just confused, because I've seen drones operating around me all the time, and I've never been that concerned about safety.
Yeah. So most drones that you've seen around you are probably, I would say, probably DJI, Mavics, Phantom 4, small ones. Maybe the Matrice 600, that's like the largest one you've probably seen around you. Take the Matrice, double that size. So we're talking about like really large propellers. And that propeller is, if something happens, it can be bad. So
Okay.
that's one thing. And second, we fly pretty close to the ground. So I think that also has an effect on people. Most drones that you see are up in the sky, really high up. You don't really see them. You don't really hear them as much. So imagine that really close to the ground as well, because we don't need to fly that high if we're going to land every 30 seconds.
Yeah, you're right. It's a waste of energy to go up and back down.
Yeah. So we kind of I think those are the main two reasons, that, because of the fact that the drone is closer to them, it's bigger, and, dealing with the logistics of drone technology and regulation, it's not that big of a deal if you do it once a week or once a month or whatever. But we're talking about every day having this system out there marking coordinates. So like every day they have to go through procedures and make sure everyone is aware of the drones up there. And I think that's more of a schlep as well for them, and they didn't want to deal with that. And when we first started deploying our technology in solar farms, we saw that the coordinates are really close to one another, like 20 feet. Mm-hmm. Safety there is not an issue because you're in the middle of nowhere usually. But they're 20 feet apart. Flying 20 feet, it's not a big deal. Why fly 20 feet? We can just drive that.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a lot of time that you don't really need to take, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about wind, I'm sure, with the machine that drives too. So it sounds like you guys kind of made a perfect pivot where it's like, okay, we have this thing that's really cool. You look at it from the surface, everybody's going to want one. Safety concerns come up, and then like you just said, okay, so why can't we just bring the bot like we would bring the drone and let it drive on site? That sounds like the pivot, right?
Yeah. So that's the pivot that we've made. What's the worst thing can happen? I think, Joe, you saw that. The ground robot will try to hump your leg. Like, that's it.
Yeah, we saw that. It's kind of like an excited dog, no problem.
Yeah. That's the safety hazard of this ground robot. The drone safety hazard is propellers going to cut your arm. So,
by the way, it's important for everybody to know, I think the only reason you demonstrated that was you actually tried to demonstrate the worst thing that would happen. So I want to be clear. It doesn't just randomly come over and try to run up your leg. It was like to actually prove what it would do. I feel that I needed to make that clear to the people listening.
Yeah.
So,
and another great benefit that we saw from switching from the air to the ground is, just battery life. Moving a ground robot. Actually, we took 2 batteries from the drone, even though the drone had 4. So the drone had 4 batteries, and every hour we swapped them out. The ground robot has 2, swap it out after 5 hours. So
yeah, that's the difference.
So huge difference for ops, convenient for the customer, and just trying to make that workflow as easy as possible for them.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a real great product. So I mean, what are your future plans for Civ then? Like what are your kind of market expansion or innovation ideas to really get this just to be the way that people lay out sites?
So we are in development of a next gen CivDot, which will include more features. You're talking about trees earlier, right? We also have this very similar problem with solar farms. There's a lot of different pile types, different colors. Why have one spray can on the robot when I have 4 of them, 5, 6?
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
So having different colors is one thing. We already have a solution that just uses software to determine, if you have a dominant color, let's say you have 100 points and 90 of them are red, and the rest are like blue and yellow. So the red, we'll put the red spray can inside, just spray those out. And the yellow and blue, it will tell the operator, I am yellow before it continues to the next coordinate. And the operator just does that manually. But if you put multiple spray cans, you don't need that also. And last but not least, I think the next gen CivDot will also have, working on it, it'll be able to draw different shapes. So imagine a 3D printer on the ground robot as well. So it can literally draw, write stuff on it. And that's huge for road markings mainly, to be honest. So like doing the arrows of, before the intersection, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it would basically paint out the outline. So when the person comes with like the heavy, like thick paint they put down on the road, they wouldn't have to mark it. They would just be kind of giving
fill it in.
Exactly. They'd be filling in the area you'd be putting down with like a water-based like type paint that's just in a can or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the cool things about our product, you also spoke about this with the network thing. You can buy a can from Home Depot, Lowe's, we don't care. Put it in our robot, it will use it.
No, that's really good. That's plug and play. And the thing about it is, a lot of people undervalue the amount of time it takes to lay something out. I mean, it's something I've always have to overcome, okay, so I do robotic mowing and people will be like, well, the robotic mower doesn't do the trimming and this and that, but it takes out a lot of the labor. I figure easily 30% of the labor on a property. And when I think about what you're doing, there's so much time spent on layout. And if you have a bad layout person, the whole project is just ruined, So how do you guys guarantee the accuracy? Like, how do you go back and you know, so let's say you put it out there. I mean, have you ever had an issue where there's like a satellite shift or something's a little off? Like, how do you reference that or check it? And I'm not saying you ever have. I just know I would wonder about that.
Oh, we have. Just the other day we had one as well. You know, we are aware, you know, this you know, these issues, and the way we mitigate that risk is at first, every day you start the day, you have your 3 points that you want to test out. You always do those 3 points, 3 points, 5 points, 10 points, whatever. You can choose that number. Do those points. If it's off, we do higher calibration. You put it literally above the first point. You can measure that. You already have that number because that's a benchmark. And then you press the hard calibration. That's it. And then you do that, that mission again. And only after those, 5 points or 3 points that you decide clear up, only then you start doing your job. But, like you said, satellites move, reception is not necessarily that steady. Our software, if you don't have more than 20 satellites, it will not mark. If you're losing RTK fix, you move to float, it will not even move. We do not want to mark something incorrectly. That should never happen. And so far, we haven't had that. We already have more than 10 units out there in the field, and they're being used on a daily basis, marking anywhere between 500 to 2,000 points a day. And so far, we haven't had any problem with that. And this process of doing it has worked so far. And we, in the end of the day, we're using the same technology that you have on any GPS or machine control. So if the GPS is wrong, our robot will be wrong. And we mitigate that by literally just doing a few benchmarks every morning.
Well, it's something I say all the time, and Tom, there's always a common theme, and honestly, it's the reason I have the podcast, is to get people to understand that this technology, having technology doesn't replace human beings. You educate the human being how to double check the technology. So when you just said about checking the points, having your first reference points in the morning to check, make sure everything is calibrated right, boom, away we go. There's still human interaction, and it's important. I just to hit on this point because people see this stuff, and you'll have people saying, well, but then you're killing the job. And it's like, no, you're just making somebody's job easier because that person has to be.
I've felt that, I would say when I post something on social media, 50%, like you said, are like, you're taking jobs away, but then the other 50, like, we love this, we need this. And, right now with the infrastructure bill, coming up and more construction is happening, we have a huge sort of skilled labor surveying. So whatever we can do to help the market to have surveying tools, it's a tool. CivDot is a tool. It's not replacing people. You still have an operator. And in solar farm, we still have 2 nail guys walking behind it. The question is, are you following are you going to have, 2-3 crews walking around manually doing this task and being tired and, not, troubleshooting where the coordinates are, or follow the robot, let him do the math, let him do the hard work, and you just follow it and you do the simple part, in this case, nailing and overseeing the robot doing its thing. So you still have an operator, so instead of operating a handheld device, he's operating the robot. And I asked one of our customers the other day, we had that joke, was like, you're taking our job away. I'm like, he was like, no, I like this. This is making my job easier, and I don't have to deal with all these buttons and try to look like. We simplified his work, and now he just walks after this robot, and he actually listened to a podcast while doing so.
Well, and so Tom, I want to see if your opinion on this is the same as mine. So one of the things that I constantly find is, I see all this stuff on LinkedIn. If someone like you post something or I share something, and what I found is there's a common denominator. The people that are like, we need this in this industry, are in the industry. The people that are complaining that you're killing jobs, if you actually click on their profile, they have nothing to do with the industry. They're So they comment on something killing jobs in an industry they're not even a part of. And I always ask the question, if someone's going to be concerned about it, who I really want to start to talk to are the people that are hiring people for those industries. Because I can tell you personally, on side of mine for a landscaper, every year it's harder and harder to find people that want to cut grass. And I'm sure every year it's harder and harder now that they're trying to scale out and get as many solar fields out. Probably the thing that slows their projects down the most is getting them laid out so they can send through to install. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. Our industries are, in the same way, conservative industries, old-fashioned industries, and less people want to do these jobs. But our communities is growing. We are going to have more gardens. We are going to have more solar farms, and a bit different in that sense is our solar farms are in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing there. So actually getting labeled there is even harder now, say for gardening, because they're in the middle of nowhere. So you literally have to relocate people for 6 months to a year. It's not only hiring them, it's also bringing them to these job sites and take care of them and give them, so they work for 10 days and 4 days off. And it's a schlep. People don't want to do this kind of work. People want to work on a computer, want to do work at a store, be part of in the city life, and not the last job I was at was 3 hours away from Austin, Texas, or 5 hours from Austin, and 2 hours from LA. People don't want to be in the middle of the desert and performing these tasks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and the other thing I always laugh, and I think that you would probably kind of chuckle on this, but the people that I see leaving the comments, I'll notice they're a CFO someplace, or which usually I think that they would see the value just from labor savings. But then I sometimes want to comment and ask if they use Excel and Google Docs and slides, because I look at it and it's everybody's so hesitant to automate outside labor where you're working in the rain and the snow and dodging rain and stuff. But then the same people that seem to think it's terrible, I know they're all using a laptop with the best processor in it and everything that makes their job easier, because instead of long-handing equations, they enter a cell and they do the same thing 75 times in an hour. It's the same thing, right? It's the exact same.
It's the same thing, man. I agree.
Yeah. So I just have to say these things out loud sometimes so people actually listen and hear them. So they, I have to get people to stop trying to stonewall these things that people like you are coming.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people who are, on social media are against these things and claiming these things are, like you said, some of them they're using technology anyway. But the other ones are actually, a lot of them are social
media, right? They're on something that didn't exist 10 years ago.
So yeah, it's kind of it's annoying that way, but in the same time, it's good to have that, that ping pong. And, some of them, some of the customers that we've been to, one of this survey crews was he was against that. And real quickly, I was able to bring him in. And I found out that actually his problem was the fact he's walking around with a bucket of nails that he doesn't want to carry. He's literally carrying a bucket of nails with him on the job site. I'm like, give me that bucket. I put it on the robot. What about now? It's oh, this is so much nicer. I'm like, yeah. And I brought him in. And now he's loving it because he doesn't have to carry the bucket with him anymore. He's not carrying, 30-pound of nails on him, because we put that on the robot and he's carrying for him. So every let's say 20 points, he stops, takes 20 nails from the bucket, continues. So yeah. I got him to flip.
So how much does that bucket of nails weigh, by the way? Because I feel like that bot's pretty robust to be able to handle that. I'm pretty impressed.
They can carry up to 60 or 70 pounds, and that bucket was 30.
Yeah.
So
no, well, and that's something repetitive that person doesn't have to do every day, and then you
Oh
know,
yeah, he was literally carrying that bucket, and then like every 3 rows, he'll go back to his bucket and take some more, and walking around that bucket, and then every point like drop the bucket, take the nail out of the bucket, and hammering. And now he just like he has this like really cool belt that he has all the nails in it, like ready to go, and just like pops it, boom, pops it, boom. And he's like, so like puts 20 nails on him. He's walking free with 2 hands free. He used to have a handheld GPS in one hand and a bucket in the other one, and then hammer on his, inside the bucket as well. Now he's just walking with a hammer in one hand or free. You can put it in his belt as well, just nails, and he's loving it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, it's kind of crazy because it's something you wouldn't even think about. But yeah, I mean, it's not only is it laying out the data points, but they don't have to walk around with the nails. And you could probably go a step further. I mean, heck, we've got robotic ball pickers now. We work with Echo Robotics, so we're picking up golf balls, 12,500 a day, and cutting the grass at the same time. And I'm thinking like, oh, this is pretty cool. I've got these robots. And then I see a guy golfing, and there's a cart like following him.
Yeah.
And turns out I don't know if he's, because I think about this with the bucket, and I think, man, Tom, you could probably just have your bots have a separate bot that carries the stuff behind them. It just follows the worker, and the worker never has to pick up anything. It like you walk and the bot follows right behind you. So anyways, it's just amazing times we're living in. So how do you feel? How much time do you think your machine saves in one of these solar fields?
Oh, a lot. Like it's crazy. Just the other day, we were at a solar farm. We did about 1,500 points in one day with 3 guys. And the lead surveyor there was telling me he usually has 4 crews. That's 8 people there for about a day and a half to do that test. And let's say just to make the math simple, 12, people days, work days versus 3. So the fact that literally, 4x, if you look at it that way, which is pretty remarkable in that sense. But like I said, time is valuable. Not only saying like labor costs in that sense, but on road closures, we're able to do an entire job that they usually, 3 hours at night to do. We were doing in like 30 minutes. And that time is super valuable in the road closures. Because just de-risking having, every hour that you're late of a road closure, you can get fines, and traffic is a shit show, and you want to avoid that. Do everything in your power to avoid that, and by giving them 2.5 more hours, because you can't start working without the markings. You can't. You'll be blind, and that's huge value for them.
Well, and not to mention what you said earlier, which is, you set those 3 points or you check those 5 points, and then if you're putting in steel guardrail or whatever you're doing on the side of that road, you can feel safe that as you're putting it in and you're already under pressure. I mean, when do most of us make mistakes? It's when you're under pressure.
Right.
I'm sure even when you take a test, you have an hour for the questions you do in the first 30 or 45 minutes. You take a lot more time on than the ones you do in the last 15 if you're running out of time. So now you take something and you're confident in the measurement. Now you do the work and you don't have to rework it, because once you pour things in concrete, it costs a lot of money to rip it out, and people are upset that you've got to do it again. So yeah, no, it's amazing.
We've done a test on one of our pilots, actually in a solar farm. We measured how, like our customer, the developer, told us how much reworks he has on average on that job site. Like just the panels are a bit off, and that's because of the pilot machines. And we did a block for him. It was about 59 points, and we had less than 1% reworks on our block, and the block just next to it, which is identical, 3%. The one after that, 2.5%. The other one, 3%, and we were 1%. And that reworks is huge. That cost savings is even greater than the cost of surveying sometimes. So, knowing that the robot will do it correctly, that's huge value. and not have to worry about, like you said, the first 40 minutes out of an hour. And when you have pressure, there's more room for mistakes. And, in the end of the day, these surveyors are using a bubble, to make sure that they're leveled. Our robot has IMUs, solid IMUs, and takes into account the incline, the pitch, the roll, everything, and marks that point. So by automating it, we have better quality. It's that's it, straightforward. And the robot's not moving, so it's not moving. It's getting a lot of readings. It's becoming more and more reliable. While you're holding a stick, how steady can you be? To be honest, so
Yeah.
quality is major, and that's value as well. Like you said, reworks is a pain in the butt. Time, cost, and
Well, and
just a headache of it.
Customer perception, because you do that job, and if you do have to rework something, and now the customer sees you as the person that had to redo it, so you rework it because it's what's right, to not honestly look like a non-compliant contractor, but at the end of the day, they still have that taste in their mouth that you had to redo a project.
I will say one thing though, that has to do with reworks on the bad side of automation. The robot will do whatever you tell him to do. So if you somehow set it up incorrectly or you have the wrong data, the robot will not know, and they will do that. So it's really, really important. And I was telling to our customers, when you set up the data, don't rush. You're going to do your data, planning. Takes you 5 minutes, even if it takes you 8 minutes. In order to avoid mistakes, take your time, because after you do those, 5 minutes, the robot's going to be working for weeks straight, because that's enough data for him. So if it takes instead of 5 minutes, take 10 minutes to make sure you're doing it correctly and you're providing the robot the right data, that will eliminate reworks, because that's the only good thing about having human there. And even with our robot, if the human is there is checking with his system manually, he might pick up the mistake. But the robot, he will do whatever you tell him to do. He won't make a mistake unless, for him, it's not a mistake because he was programmed to do whatever you tell him. So it is valid to have a person, make sure it's doing the right thing.
Well, and Tom, this is something that we found. I mean, when I got into robotics, and quite frankly, I mean, the robots we use are pretty dumb in comparison to what you're doing, right? But at the end of the day, the best relationships I formed are the ones that let us do it in a subscription model, because I can have trained robotic professionals interacting with the robot, so that if there is a problem with the robot, the human basically is kind of molding the clay, it's filling the gaps. What I found is when people buy these robots, they buy it, and then when something fails, they can't take responsibility as the human, so they want to blame the robot because it's a lot easier to blame the bot. And that is one thing that's going to be interesting to see as your company grows, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk in the future, is to find out if you end up experiencing that same scenario as I did, where you're almost best off to own it and charge per dot with your robot and just have somebody driving around with it, because then there's no excuses for the failure. They can't blame it on the bot if the reference points or the architect or the surveyor that got you the starting GPS or grid point did something wrong. You can actually prove it up.
It's a great great question and comment. And I was really considering this in our business model at first. Should I be a service provider? Should I be a product? Should I lease? Should I sell? And we decided to go with this lease rental option. It's kind of similar to per dot, but per month, because they just don't want to own it, and they don't know how to swallow per dot. It's weird for them. So when I offered to do this as a full service, they said, all right, I want you to do all of our surveying work. I'm like, I'm not a surveying company. I'm not a land surveying. We developed the technology. I don't mind doing all your piles. I can do that. Give me that file, I'll do it. No, I want you to do the measurement and the calculation. I'm like, no. I'm not you want me to be surveying, design, and EPC. I'm not like, you can't have it all. And I presume you're more focusing on a certain region. We have customers already in Japan, in Israel, in out east in Virginia, out in Texas, out in California, Arkansas. Like, we're around. Having ops and having operators, bounce around between them, it's pretty much impossible.
No, I could see that being difficult for you. And yeah, I mean, our goal is to become national. There's no doubt about that. And you are right. It's like you could very easily dilute the technology by having the wrong partners or the wrong people. So I do know that is always going to be an issue. And I do think what you're doing right now is fine. We're agnostic with that also. I mean, I don't keep somebody from buying a robot. If somebody wants to buy a robot, hey, do it. We try to train them up, which I'm sure you do also. You train that company or that person how to use the machinery. And you kind of let them go. But yeah, I know. It's just,
it's amazing how this year has taught us all how to adapt to, COVID and doing things remotely. We pretty much have everything online already for training a new customer, even a new employee. We actually sent a robot out abroad and they're using it, and we have never even stepped foot there, which is pretty remarkable. And I think the main things about how we got to this point is we built it, no disrespect, we built it for dummies. We built it so simple that anyone can operate this robot. And in less than an hour, I can train you how to do the basic stuff. But I'll say a full day, like you said, for you to be able to troubleshoot an issue or to, think of out the box, how can you do something in order to, really utilize all the potential of this robot. But if you have only one task you want to do, that's it. And repeat it over and over. In 1 hour, Joe, you're good to go. But if you want to be able to do it do this, do that, do this, do that, and like all these various things, because you might want to have a tree within an inch, and the other one, the railing has to be an inch, but the, dropping materials, who cares? Put 6 inches there. I want to lay out a lot more. So like these kind of things you can change on the software, and that takes a bit more effort, a bit more training. How to fix something, a bit more training, but everything is done these days remotely. We had a troubleshoot with actually one of our wheels came off. Happens. Yeah. They went into a ditch. We send them a really detailed video how to put it back together. We didn't go there. Within 20 minutes, it was fixed. That was it. So.
No, I mean, I listen, I'm interested in figuring out how, I mean, I think there could be a huge benefit to have it in our industry. We'll have to talk off the show about how I get something here in the Midwest and they bring it on as automated outdoor solutions, and I'll start laying out other landscapers landscaping for them. Because
looking forward to it. My brother just moved to Chicago. I need to move. I need to come out there, get some deep dish.
Yeah. Well, I'm on keto right now, so hopefully by the time you come out here, I've lost the weight and I can go. I can be joining you. So all right. So we've talked a lot about the product, but I always like the people listening to learn about the people behind the product. So, give me some background on yourself, tell us about your family. You actually just said your brother just moved to Chicago. So kind of tell me about you, your family, things you do for recreation.
Awesome. So, like I said, I was born and raised in Israel, American mother, Israeli father. Moved back and forth, as a kid, you just, travel around the world and visiting our family in the U.S., mostly in Ohio. And grew up Scouts boy, sports, basketball. Actually used to play professional ball in Israel and also in college. And served in the Army, ground forces, officer. Did a lot of work actually with the U.S. Army in Israel. That was fun. After serving, I started my own business back in LA. After a couple of years, I got bored. I went back to school, got my engineering degree, worked construction, started the venture. Recreation wise, love sports, anything with a ball, tennis, soccer, football, whatever. Everything but baseball. We don't have baseball in Israel, but
Yeah.
mostly basketball. Extreme sports, scuba, snowboard, everything. Anything with water, underwater, also good. And family, four siblings in total, um, all in different tech worlds. My sister is the only one who stayed, became a doctor, so happy for her. Always good to have a doctor in the family. My mother's a doctor as well, so and actually her last name is Doctor, which is kind of funny.
Well, but that is kind of strange, and you are right about the whole having a doctor in the family. I have two nurses in the family, but in my opinion, it's as good as having a doctor.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know.
Definitely. And wife also works in tech. We have a cute dog here in San Francisco, is with us. And yeah, it's keeping a healthy lifestyle. Keep traveling, keep hiking, see nature. During COVID, that's the only thing we were able to do actually. So we were just going national parks and just exploring our great nation here. It's been pretty remarkable. And the cool thing about my job is that I get to travel a lot. So I've been to so many states throughout, my career here with Robotics, and it's been great to see our nation and see how different people are, but we have the same core. We all love the same things, and it's been a great experience so far. And seeing how our technology is, helping customers out in Arkansas or in, deep south in Texas, right next to the border with Mexico. And we trained a Mexican employee as well to use our technology. I didn't know anything in Spanish, but he got the robot like that. Because in the end of the day, like he has a cell phone, he has an iPhone. If he has an iPhone, he can definitely operate the robot.
It's so funny you say that, because it's the robots are actually simple compared to our phones and tablets nowadays. So I think that's cool that you see that. So what states are probably your favorite then? Because you said you visited a lot of them. So what have been some of your favorites and why?
Look, if I have to, food is a big part of this equation. So I'll say Texas has a big piece of it because they have some great barbecue out there. But I actually really like Arkansas. Arkansas was really chill, good people, good vibes, great weather, great nature. I really liked Arkansas. Yeah, it was. We went to the Ozarks as well.
But see, this is why I asked the question. So yeah. I mean, for me, I've been in the states that everybody knows, but not that many. I mean, Texas, California. I've been into New York. To me, New York is just a dirtier version of Chicago.
That's so true.
That's how I feel. And New Yorkers are probably like, "Go fuck yourself" right now. But that's it.
I've lived. It's crazy. I'm 33, almost 33 years old. I've lived in Israel. I lived in the Netherlands. I lived in LA. I lived in New York. I lived in Syracuse. I lived in and I spent a lot of time in Asia. Like I've been to China like 5 times already, and like India. Like I've traveled around the world a lot. To be honest, out of everywhere, I love Tel Aviv the most. But our ventures here in the U.S., we have U.S. customers. I need to grow our venture, and that's why I'm here. And so far, America's been great, and it's great to see this explore this nation and get to see more and more people from around different states. I never thought I would be, stuck in like the Ozarks and have a customer like an hour away from the Ozark. It was pretty cool. And something I think I really value, and I've learned this from meeting people in the construction space. There's tremendous pride in this job, in this industry, and about being American, having an American truck, having wearing a Caterpillar hat, or even your company logo. People wear their swag. You're wearing your swag. I'm wearing my swag. I wear my swag on the weekend. I love it.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, I'm in the shirt. I'm in shirts like this all the time. It's either this one or Langton Group, one of the two. Every
Yeah.
now and then the manufacturers I supply get lucky and I wear their shirts.
And customers have asked me, is your stuff made in China? I'm like, no. Like I build everything in the U.S. now, and I even though it's more expensive, some of the materials, even the flight control that we buy, is like double the price because it's in the U.S. from the U.S. But made in the U.S. means a lot to me and to our customers, and they're willing to pay a bit more for it. That's fine. And
well, Tom, that's great to hear you say that. I feel like someone that obviously born and raised in the United States, sometimes I feel like that national pride is like diminishing. And sometimes I really don't understand why. I mean, I am interested to hear. I've never been to Tel Aviv. So, what is it that you love about it? I mean, is it just familiarity? Or like, what is it that you liked about Tel Aviv so much? Because I'm just interested to know.
So first of all, I'll invite you next time I go, which I go quite often. But Tel Aviv is like a mixture of, how I explain it. It's like a mixture of like San Diego with some Vegas in it, but chill, like chill, and the water is warm, so that has a huge impact. It's like,
yeah, that sounds like a winning moment right there. I mean, the way you described that, I feel like 1,600 views of Tel Aviv will happen after this podcast airs. So
yeah.
It sounds good to me.
And it's like it's even like, I would say, even I'll throw it into that mix, like in New York as well. It's like New York with San Diego mixture and some Vegas, night out kind of attitude, and just like people, you can go on the street on the middle of the week, 1 a.m. people are still like out drinking and having a good time, and it's like it's a tech city, so it's like has like that's tech vibe that people are like riding bicycles and scooters to school to work. And just good vibes, cafes, outdoors. Cool thing that happened in COVID, and I hope they're gonna keep it in some ways, like the outdoor seating. Just being able to be outdoors and outside. It's and that's in Tel Aviv. In Europe, it's very common. It's like half the seating is outside.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's something that I've always liked, and even, I mean, I've noticed being in Chicago, obviously when you go down south, if you go to Florida or Texas or whatever, because it's warmer climates, there is a lot of outdoor seating anyways. But that is something locally that I've noticed that is really nice. I mean, everybody had to adapt and figure out how they were going to seat people, and yeah, no, hopefully they keep that, because it's definitely nice to do and enjoy nature. So did you say China 5 times, or where have you been 5 times?
Yeah, I've been to China, I've been to Hong Kong, I've been to Shenzhen, I've been to Macau, I've been to India 2 times, right? Yeah, 2 times to India. I used to live in the Netherlands as well. I did 6 months abroad there. In my wedding in Israel, we had friends coming from Germany, Netherlands. Actually, a friend came from Iran.
Man, I'll tell you what, I've talked to some, in my opinion, well-traveled people, but I think you are going to win the award. You have seen a lot of the world. I'm kind of inspired, by how much you've seen. So what is China? I mean, so I've never been to any of these places. So hopefully you understand. Hopefully you've got time to stay on and keep telling me about some of the stuff. I mean, like, you've been to China 5 times. Is it all work related, or is it you actually just like?
The first 2 times were travel. Third time was school. I went to like a engineering without borders kind of thing going on.
Gotcha.
And the 4th and 5th time was work, and I was considering having some sort of a joint venture there with the company. And the first time I was just exploring things and seeing construction work there, and I was astonished. No disrespect, they don't care. They don't care about safety. They don't, like, the values are so different. Even in Israel, US, they have different values. They're pretty aligned with a lot of things, but like, let's say we have the top 3 values: safety, cost, and I'll say time. And in the US, safety is really first. Time is second. Third is cost. Even though time can be, extrapolated into cost. So in Israel, it's costs, safety, and then time, I would say. And in China, it's cost, time, safety. Like they don't care. I saw people working underground in China in Beijing on the underground tunnel for the rails for the subway with Crocs. With Crocs.
Really? Oh my gosh, that is crazy. If somebody shows up to pick up their paycheck in a pair of Crocs at work, I actually say, I don't care if you're on the clock or not, don't wear that into our shop.
They were working underground, doing side earthworks and concrete work with Crocs. This is Beijing, capital of China. And when a customer tried to negotiate with me about terms of whatever we're doing, like I have my cost of goods, of the goods itself, the hardware itself. We spent millions of dollars on development, and he was trying to push me down like no other, like basically taking my cost of good, maybe like 10% more of that. I'm like, if you want to work together, I have to have some sort of profit here. I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm not going to do like, oh, but this is a huge market. It's a big market, 1 billion people here. It's a growing industry. So we're talking volumes. I'm going to get 20 units. I'm like, doesn't matter if you're going to pay me that much, that little, I can make in the US, I can make more profit. Like your 20 units are equivalent to let's say 5 units in the US selling. And you're going to give me so much crap and so much noise about it. And you're not going to, we can't really communicate that well. And no disrespect, you can get 5 Chinese workers and you don't care if one of them breaks his leg because you're just going to get another one and throw that one to a trash. That value, I can't see that.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention, I hate when people say, I'm gonna buy 20 of these for you, but if you're not selling it at the right price, it's a race to zero. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to bankrupt yourself to do a deal. I never understand when people bring that up. Well, I want it cheap and I'll buy a lot of them. But it's like, if I'm not making money or possibly losing money, you just make me lose more money.
Look, it actually brings me to another thing I think about. A lot of people want stuff for free. Being a free pilot, you probably have this as well. Come to do a pilot with me. I'm like, okay, if you want me to come to do a pilot for you, you're in Arizona, and let's say I'm California. I'm going to charge you $5,000 for coming out and doing a demo for 2 days. Like, no, I don't pay for demos. I'm like, you want me to fly or drive 2 days to you with our robots, do a job for you that you pay someone else. If you're not willing to pay for it, that's not a problem you want to solve. And if they pay little for it, they will respect it and they will mess it up. Just like, we've done actually 2 free demos in total. None of them have paid or bought product. We've done more than 10, and more than half of them bought the robots or at least them. So putting your, paying for something, even paying more for it shows character and shows that it's important for you and that you'll take it seriously. So if someone's going to lowball you, it means that they don't really see the value in it, or they're just going to, mess it up faster and not, take good care of it, and it will just break sooner.
No, you're so spot on. I mean, I have this conversation sometimes with these manufacturers. Husqvarna, actually, I mean, we do a lot of their robots, and what's ironic is Husqvarna didn't give me 1 robot for free. I bought every robot I've ever put out in service with them, and there's a value to it. I don't ever want them to get, if it's raining and I'm worried that there might be a flood, I park on this and that. And what I found was every customer that they've had me do an install for, they got a free robot for some reason. couldn't care less about it. There is no value to free. You're absolutely right. It's like watching people eat at a buffet when you go to an all-inclusive resort. It could literally be the best lobster tail you've ever seen, and they'll eat half of it and then go up and get a piece of steak because there's no value to it. It's free. It's all inclusive. So no, you're right. I mean, you have to. You got to stick to your guns. What you have is already saving people. I mean, you had said 8 days worth of labor. And what do you think these companies bill out per hour? For their layout person? What do you figure? At least $100 an hour, right? 150
for layout crew.
You said it was like, for a crew. Yeah.
It's about $80 a crew.
Okay. $80 an hour. Okay. So 80, and you said it was 8 days of work. So 80 times 8 hour day is 640 times 8 days, $5,120. So basically it's a cost neutral for them. If they flew you out and you laid out the site as the demo, they would have spent $5,100 anyways.
Yeah. You spot on. And you know what, even I tell them, if you buy the robot or lease it, I'll deduct some of that cost for the POC. I'll take that off. I'll mark it off because you tried it out, but I see that you're serious about it because you're actually going to put money down. And that's huge. And to be honest, just customer who just now, ordered, one of our customers just got 4 robots. He was able to see the ROI, just, not even about people, just the fact that he's replaced, like using our robot instead of 4 handheld GPS devices. That was it. That's enough for them. The fact that he's doing this with less labor, that's an add-on. The fact he's doing it with in less time, that's another add-on, like another benefit. And we're again talking about values. The value for him is safety and time. And in China, it's costs. And they didn't even speak about safety.
Well, and there's something that you missed too, and it's also innovation. The company that shows up with a unit that lays out pinpoints and it's a robot. Listen, let's face it, robots get attention. You see something driving by itself and putting dots all over a field, or driving by itself and picking up golf balls or cutting grass, they get attention. They're traffic stoppers. So now that company that owns that, they have something that sets themselves apart from the other, and they can increase market share. That's the biggest thing. I actually sometimes tell people, like, if you're going to buy some robots, you should put some of it in your marketing. Take some money out of your marketing and realize you're using a robot. Now you're saying your stuff's on a remote field, right? But do some marketing videos with a drone, put that on your website. And now these companies like, holy cow, this person lays it out with a precision millimeter GPS bot. Oh my gosh, this is the company for us. That's how they.
You spot on. Like, I have customers who, a lot of them are, in the market, can buy their stocks, and it's a marketing stunt, but it's true. And, sharing that to your shareholders and showing that you're innovative, and it puts you up there. And just having a good video of some sort. Some customers have I'm not going to talk about different companies in this sense, but they had some videos using robotics for inspection, and they're like, oh, so cool, but in the end of the day, they didn't even buy one, but it did well for their stocks. And we did the marketing with them. So definitely see the value of these things. And but I just want to make sure our customers are happy and they're getting the best service they and support they need. And that's what we do. So it's actually pretty remarkable that we have, we're a team in Israel and in the US. So basically 24 hours, someone will answer. If it's an email, it's a call. If I don't, my team here in the US doesn't answer, 2 hours later, someone in Israel is going to answer and reply. So it's pretty awesome having that as well.
No, that's amazing. So you said you had your own business for 2 years and got bored and went back to school. What was that business? I never I wanted to circle back.
I was so right after the army, I was I was buff, and I was a lot more athletic than these days, especially with COVID and my knee surgeries. But I used to play professional ball back in Israel, like I said. And after serving the army and moved back to the U.S., moved to the U.S., I had a personal training kind of thing going on, and then I had a sports league, and I was training. I was a PE teacher part time, but like I had about 150 kids every weekend playing sports, and I had about 6 coaches working for me on the weekend, and I did some personal training at high end um, gyms out in LA and Hollywood, charging anywhere between 80 to 150 bucks an hour. Um, so I was actually making pretty much what I'm making right now these days. Fresh out of the army with no education, and after I actually bought the business from I started a coach for this guy, and then after 6 months I became a partner, and then I just bought it out from him, and I tripled the amount of kids in that program. And it was fun, but it was not challenging, intellectually wise. I was like, do I want to coach kids all the time, and that's what I want to do, or and hit the gym with train people. Had clients lost anywhere from 20 to 80 pounds with me in 6 months. I was brutal. I was hard. Army did that to us.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to keep that path, and I wanted to challenge myself intellectually. And I did well in school. Don't want to brag too much, but I finished engineering school in 3 years while working the last year. Didn't even have to pay for it in the end because I was summa cum laude from the first semester. So basically, I ended up getting free school. So even though I saved a shitload of money in the U.S., so I don't have to worry about work doing school, school was free in the end for me still. And start my career in engineering and construction and management. Managing customers who are doing sit-ups and push-ups, or managing subcontractors to build things correctly, and cutting the cost of bills and whatever I have to do to get my get that profit margin from my GC or lawsuits or whatever needs to be done. And decided to go to this venture because I was a bit disgusted with some of the culture in the construction industry and GCs, and I thought things could be better and be more productive. And just by using technology in the field, I saw the benefits of it. I was always using technology, and I thought that I had this crazy idea of having I use drones for mapping. I'm sure you're familiar with this technology. And I was like, I asked the owner of that company, is actually a startup in Israel as well, can you do marketing with a robot, with a drone? He's like, no, that's not possible. A year later, we already did it. Because when you tell an Israeli guy something's not possible, give him a few months, a couple of bucks, and it will make it possible. We have great technology, great people in Israel, and I'm very fortunate to have that privilege to know a lot of them. And we built it, just like we built the Iron Dome, and we're going to build more great technology for this world, and just be better.
Yeah, so I have to add to the whole, when you tell somebody they can't, or you said when you tell an Israeli they can't, give them an hour and they will. I got to tell you, I think there's just certain people, if you tell certain people in this world you can't, they will. Because honestly, when I started doing robotic mowing, everybody told me it can't be done, it won't be done, it'll never work, and it's working, and part of it is that chip on my shoulder to be like, don't tell me what I can't do. It, I will do it, and I will be a leader in this industry until I decide to not be in the industry. That is who I am, and that's who you are. And it's proof, right? You took a business that you bought, what did you say, doubled or tripled it, right?
Yeah.
Memberships, then you got into, then you end up in construction, you're crushing that. Now you got into technology, you're inventing, and you said something that was really inspiring, and people should, really follow their instincts, because I feel you when you said you just were not like intellectually inspired. you're almost bored, right? I think there's certain people, I would say maybe my opinion, and tell me if you agree, maybe 1% of the population that almost suffers from like business boredom. It's like
Oh, yeah.
you get something started up, it's going great, and then you're like, okay, I got to find something else because this is boring for me. Some people think you're insane, but it's part of the way you're wired, and I feel like I have that same thing. My landscape company's crushing it, 300 employees in the winter, 100 in the summer, and peak seasons. And that's great. It's awesome. It's a great company, but my company is great because of every person in it. And now that it's kind of running itself, it's what made me say, I've got to get into technology and automation because I I need I need to keep my mind busy, and is that kind of like how you felt?
Yeah, in a strange way, it did. I was working, 6:30 a.m. starting the opening the gate of our job site, and 6 p.m. closing, wrapping up, bills and whatever needs to be done for GC. And I was just, I was sick of it, and I was sick of people telling me, things are, wouldn't change. And I was starting to use technology already at that stage. There's a great startup back in from San Francisco that was bought by Autodesk called PlanGrid, and I was one of the first 100 users. And I told my boss at the time, "This is great technology. We should use this." He's like, "No, this is bullshit. I don't need this. I don't need this crap." I was also this about Procore. 3 years later, Autodesk bought PlanGrid for $750 million. Just yesterday, Procore had an IPO with $675 million raised. And when I started using drone technology and saw the benefits of it, I'm like, screw this. I'm gonna build my own company, provide technology to this industry, which is 13% of the world GDP, and I'll show my colleagues beforehand that we're disregarding technology benefits of construction, and show them that this is possible. And it's a bit sad to say, no disrespect, Israel is a great nation and great technology come out of it, but hasn't adopted our technology yet. Like not really. We have one of our investors is it's actually the largest GC in Israel, and they've only used us in like one or two jobs. So
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense, especially since they're an investor.
Yeah,
I would be.
you would assume they'll be like all in, but they weren't. And I found that the U.S. customers are far more advanced in thinking about it, and open about it, and put their money down and actually put money for innovation. They see the benefits. They already use it. They know, and I think that's part of the U.S. culture. Try things, explore things.
Yeah, no, Tom, totally, for sure. I mean, so like, people are always confused with my model. Like investors and stuff will call and they'll kind of be a little confused. Actually, there's a couple I'm talking to now that are not confused, and those are probably the right partners, But so the reality is, Langton Group is basically my investor for AOS, right? It's my company investing in a startup, and there's a reason why Langton Group has the largest fleet of robotic lawnmowers, likely in the country, but at least in the Midwest, without doubt. And it's because as an investor in my own company, and my brother is part of Langton Group, of course we have to use the technology. If you don't believe enough in the technology to utilize it all the time, what are you doing?
It's funny. You guys did kind of like an other way around. I was actually considering opening a land surveying firm, a separate land surveying firm, just using our technology. And because, for instance, at solar farms, cost of laying out a pile is anywhere between $5 to $8 a point. With our robot, I can do it for. I'm actually bidding less than half of that, and I've won bids. And then they asked me for the whole thing. I'm like, I can only do this if you want. And I'm like, I was literally considering getting another surveying guy with me, just offering this as a full service and having a surveying firm.
So it's funny.
I can't do it at all. So I'm sticking to my product for now. Yeah.
So why don't you just sell licensing agreements? Like, why don't you just find surveying firms that can carry the license for your company for your product? So you bid this stuff, you feed it to them, they're licensed. And I mean, that personally, that's what I would do if I were you. But maybe that's a talk out off the podcast.
Yeah,
But
it's in the end of the day, I have I want to balance my life. I have 24 hours a day, 8 hours sleep, 2 hours sports, and then I have about 2 hours for family time, and then 8 hours for work.
yeah,
I see it, and you can't do it all. You just can't. You have to. So balance your life, be happy, and find the right partners. There's no reason why I can't just find a good partner to do it with and have a large surveying firm to work with and do it. But for now, we're really happy what we have, and I'm fortunate about what we have right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, you should be. I mean, you're doing something great, and you should be proud of it. So,
Yeah.
I always like to be.
I gotta go. So
Yeah. So with that, then I will let I'll just want to say thank you very much for the time and the things you shared today. I think your company sounds awesome. I hope we stay in touch, and I'm going to take you up on going and seeing you, or going out and seeing the world with you. Anytime you give me the invite, I'm going to try to take it.
sounds good. We should get some autonomous. Actually, we should get some autonomous mowers in Israel.
We should get some what? That would be awesome. Bring me out there. Let's get them going. We'll get a service model out there. That'd be great. Seriously, I will go wherever. So we'll talk more when you got more time. We'll have to talk about all this stuff.
Later, Joe. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye.